My first trigger build, Garage Inspection Edition, a crossout video by Dangerously Incompetent. If you want to try out this build, you can find it in the exhibition, D_I or WedgeTrigger. What shall we look at first? Movement. Let's start with movement. I find movement is so important with a crossout build. What have we got for movement? Well, we've got two shivs, then a space, and then Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot are pulled in as far as they will go and still keep the build symmetrical. So there's two spaces wide there. And you'll find this layout is very common, and they're all steering wheels. And you find this layout very common and very popular because its turning circle is so small. It's about as tight as you're going to get. This one's a tiny little bit wider than it could be because the Bigfoot at the back are a bit too far back, because I had to put them there in order to fit the cap can and the Colossus in. But so you got nice tight turning circle, which is what you want when you're trying to wiggle around and trying to wedge someone, like so. Expertly done. Ha. And speaking of the wedge, that's why you got the Bigfoot at the back and the small size shiv wheels at the front, because small wheels means the wedge is lower, and then Bigfoot at the back lifts the back up, tips the nose down, and you can see that the leading edge on this wedge is very, very close to the ground. Oops, don't run into a tree. And yet not catching on it all the time and stopping you dead in your tracks, which slows your general advance. So all in all, the driving and the maneuvering and the acceleration, we've got a Colossus, remember, plus 50% acceleration of this build is very good. Highly recommend this layout if you're going to be in close quarters or dogfighting. What have we got for offensive capability? Well, there's 3 triggers, which are those nice founder lasers, which they press the fire button and they start firing, and they continue firing for a couple of seconds, heating the parts up, and then they do a burst of damage at the end. So you can do quite a nice bit of damage with these things if you can keep them on target. More of that later. Of course, they're using the photon cabin because that's good for energy weapons, and we have a cap can, which is good for offense. When you drop them down near an enemy, they hook them, so the enemy isn't going anywhere very fast. That's your melee builds taken care of, and you and everyone else on the team can have an easy time shooting them because they're not moving very far. And the other offensive capability on this build is, of course, the wedge. Does damage, lifts people up, rolls them over, leaves them defenseless. Let's take a closer look at how it's all stuck together in build mode. Well, to start with, we've got the photon cabin, which has got some power. It's got 12 energy points. That's an important bit. You always want as much energy as you can. It's got some tonnage, not so great. Maximum cabin speed's okay, not so great. Durability and some mass. And of course, it's lovely perk, which is why I'm using it. All energy weapons deal 130% damage to heated parts, and these triggers do heat parts up a treat. So if we take some of these extraneous bits off, they're just adding bits of structure to bits of sound nudges. There's very little here. That's because you can't fit things in between those two suspension parts of the big wheels. And we've got a shock absorber to help defend triggers from people shooting them from the side, and the triggers themselves are sat on the Colossus and the cap can, which are big and heavy parts, but they do have a good amount of durability. 267 for the cap can and 421 for the Colossus. So it's very rare you lose your triggers because the bits they've been sitting on have been shot out. And I've placed them one square lower than the cabin, so the cabin's helping defend them, and they've still got a nice clear shot because they're quite tall, and the whole build is tilted down towards the nose. So that's the triggers and the cap cans, and if we can take some of these parts off, we start to see the frame and the layout and that holds the wheels together. So we got shivs here with a bit of extra defence for them on that twin blade wing sticking out, and of course the shivs have 50% melee resistance, which is always useful. Two of them, because one on its own would just be too vulnerable to being shot off, and then you got no steering at the front. Oh, that's terrible. So a bit of redundancy for two of them, and then big wheels sitting at the back to raise the back up, and I can take the photon off, and those extra bits of structure hanging around. We can see where I've hidden the gas gen. It's not hidden terribly well, and there's stuff underneath to protect it from fire sitting on the ground, and there's stuff at the front. Yeah. So there's the generator stuck between the frames, and we've got stuff behind it to protect it. And yeah, so now you can start to see the layout of the wheels. You've got 6, and then there's a wedge sitting on top of it on 2 bits, and then there's more sticking out here to hold that snowplow on. That snowplow's on the frame, and then we can see the movement parts laid out in all their glory. Yep, I have used the heavier frames, especially what you really want the heavier frames, especially at the front, because they've got more durability. But I do have problems with tonnage on this vehicle, so maybe I should have left. Maybe these two could have gone to the lightweight versions, but not these two, because there isn't an 8 long, and I needed 2 4s, and they're not 24 durability, not an awful lot, even with 90% reduction from shoot through and 50% resistance to melee damage. They could come off real easy, and the light ones are like half the durability, so didn't want to skimp there. And here's the front of the wedge. You can, if we take the generator out, see it's attached midway on the frames, and then because it's rather than the right way up that you expect it, it's sort of rotated 90 degrees, well, and flip round. We can now attach all these blade wings and hatchets to them to get that extra inch or two lower and that more lifting and wedging capability. For a 9,000 power score vehicle, this build really doesn't have a lot of durability. 978 points, that's not an awful lot. And the reason it hasn't got an awful lot of durability is, well, the Photon doesn't have a great durability to start with, but it doesn't have a lot of structural parts, and it's got a couple on the side, a couple on the rear, and a few underneath. And the reason it doesn't have very many structural parts is I was struggling with tonnage all the time. The build limit is 10,500 and my mass is 1 kilogram less. That's cutting it rather fine. Could increase the tonnage by fusing a photon or fusing the wheels for extra tonnage. I do tend to avoid doing that in the builds because a lot of you can't afford fused wheels at the moment. You're going to have to play quite a bit more before you get stuff like that. But what I did put in, and I didn't think about it until sort of much later in the build, as I put in Jade. Well, I put in Jade because she's good with energy weapons, plus 5% damage, plus 3% durability. Excellent, right, we're having her. She's the one for these triggers. But she also gets generator mass reduced by 10% and quantum cabin tonnage up by 500 kilograms. So putting Jade in gives me another 520 odd kilograms to play around with. And if I take her out and put in, say, Misty with no tonnage benefits, you can see I'm now over tonnage, that little red dot there, which is a tonnage marker, and so my acceleration is starting to be penalised. If I take it for a test drive, I think you can see the acceleration is markedly reduced. So you never want to go over tonnage. So a lot of you even if you do want to try out this build, you're going to have to take something off, reduce the mass somewhere, otherwise you're going to be crippled for driving around because you haven't got a fully upgraded, up-trained Jade. The other reason we haven't got much tonnage spare for structural parts is, well, the wedge. I mean, this thing is like 2,000 kilograms on its own. We've got 1,000 on the train plough, 1,000 for the two small ploughs, and then this stuff adding on, 2,000 kilograms just in the wedge. If I took the wedge off and replaced it with structural parts, I'd be a very healthy durability. But then I wouldn't have a wedge and wouldn't have all that melee protection up the front, which is very useful. And really you do need it because the trigger's range isn't that great, so you're always sort of medium to close range to people. If you want to shoot them with your triggers, you have to get that close, which means you run the risk of being around, someone coming and hitting, some melee monster coming to try and grind you up. The other thing is the triggers are really rather massive for their durability. They got the mass is double their durability. Their durability is okay, but the mass isn't. It's a real even worse than the low durability on this build is the gas generator. Stop blinking. Gas generators, they go boom, explodes when destroyed. And how much durability has it got? 36. That's next to nothing. It goes boom really easy, which is why I'm trying to bury it between the frames and the little structure that I do actually have. Why are you blinking? Stop blinking. So why use the gas generator? Well, the triggers take 4 energy. There's 3 of them, so that's 12. So that's the photon's energy used up. And then I got another point on the Colossus, and I really want the Colossus for the extra acceleration and the reload speed, so I don't want to do without that. And then the cap can takes 2 energy, which means I need 3 extra energy. I could go one more, go get the Apollo generator for 4 extra energy, but the Apollo generator really does weigh quite a lot. It's got good durability though, but it weighs an awful lot, and of course bumps the power score up horrendously, which leaves me with the gas generator and occasionally going boom when that gets hit. Let's consider the triggers and how they function on this vehicle. If we look at the stats, the damage and the fire rate, you can ignore those because they're not really representative of what it actually does. The range is representative though. It's 100 meters. After 100 meters the laser just fizzles out and does nothing, which is quite painful, as I'll explain in a moment. Accuracy is nice, it's pinpoint, laser-like accuracy, as you might say. Durability, that's okay. Energy drain's okay. Mass is a bit high. But here's the interesting bit. It's perk. In the final moments of the shot, the beam deals 500% more damage, and that's where you get your DPS from, your damage per second from, with this build. So if we take it out for a test drive, so you drive up to within 100 meters of your target, and then you press fire, line up on the part, press fire, and it fires for a couple of seconds, heating the part up, and then it does a big burst of damage at the end, which is multiplied because the part's been heated up as well. And you got your photon and you got your Jade, so you can kick out quite a lot of damage if you can keep your triggers on target. And that's the tricky bit. The traverse on them's okay, but it's still less than the vehicle's turning rate, so you can easily outturn your targeting. You got the crosshairs on the vehicle, but the triggers can't traverse fast enough to keep it on there. Also, because you're close, every time you move or the enemy moves, it's a large portion of the arc. If you're aiming at something that's really far away, your movement and their movement doesn't mean a lot of traverse. So if you could shoot for more than 100 meters, you'd be laughing, because you could keep your triggers on the enemy for those 2 seconds. But really close, it gets to be quite difficult. And even worse, when you fire, if you interrupt the firing because you've driven past the enemy, or they've driven past you, and the other triggers have got in the way, your shot is interrupted and it stops, and it doesn't start up again when you swing past and you're free to fire. No, it's on cooling and you can't fire for another couple of seconds while it reloads. So actually doing if you just sit here and shoot, bang, wait for the reload and bang, the DPS is decent. But because you're close to the enemy, they're driving around, you're driving around, and if you're in the melee, dogfighty, wedgy, lifty thing, you frequently find that your shots are being wasted and you're not getting the DPS you need to be competitive, which is a bit of a problem. How to play this build? Well, you can't snipe because your trigger range is 100 meters. You've got to close within that 100 meters to do your damage, but you don't want to get any closer, because if you get right up close with those melee types, dogfighting, those short range shotgun types, then you're not getting the DPS out of your triggers. So you want to get to 100 meters and then you want to stay there, which can be awkward because the enemy's melees and short range, they really want to close with you. But that's where you use your cap cans. That's where they come in and where they can shine. You do things like when the enemy can only approach you through a corridor between two buildings or a set of rocks or whatever. Corridors are really common on the maps. You rush forward, drop your cap can in the corridor, and then you back off or run away again. And then when the enemy comes through, they get hooked by the cap can and they're not moving very far. It's easier to avoid their shots and you can shoot them, and the rest of the team gets encouraged to shoot the same target because it's not moving anywhere because it's caught by the cap can. Ideal. And if that fails and the enemy gets really right close to you, that's when you start using your wedge. You try and drive underneath one side of them, lift one side of them way up. That increases the chances of them rolling over, and then they're just on their back and they're an easy target. The other thing to remember is the heating effect from your triggers not only increases your damage, it increases your allies' damage. So you want the rest of your team shooting your target. But, random players being what they are, even if you've cap canned someone, even if you've rolled them over with your wedge and they're an easy shot and you're heating them up and you're going, go on guys, let's just shoot him, you're going to do extra damage and he'll die really quick. And no, they're off somewhere driving around doing something else. So if that happens, you've got to go follow them around and shoot their target, because you'll heat it up and they're shooting it and it'll die quicker and you're more likely to win in that case. So really, this build is not one for a lone wolf type of player. It works really well for a group where you could got two friends, a couple of friends with you, and you can rely on them shooting the same target as you that you're shooting. How could the build be improved? Well, if you're wasting trigger shots when you're in melee range, why not stay out melee range completely? And if you stay out melee range completely, you could ditch the wedge, and that's 2,000 kilograms you could spend on structural parts for your overall durability and increase your survivability that way. And really, the triggers with their range of 100 meters, you don't want to be on wheels. You've got 2 seconds. You've got to keep the triggers on your target. You want them on the same part, so that part gets really heated up and really suffers damage, up to 500% more damage. It's like, oh. And wheels isn't the way to get that at close range. It'd be much easier to do if you could side strafe. So put the build on meat grinders or wheels or hovers. Overall, I would rate this build as okay. If the triggers ever get their range increase, a buff, then it could be super. But as it stands at the moment, only okay. And if you don't have a fully trained Jade and you don't have that 500 extra kilograms, this build is poor because it's over tonnage at that point. Much strafier.